Welcome to Swai Files. I am Swai. In a shocking turn of events in 2009, the body of Mitchell Dale Sterling was discovered in an unexpected location, miles away from where he was initially believed to have gone missing. An amateur hiking group, while exploring a treacherous area of Mesa Verde, stumbled upon his remains in a deep and almost inaccessible ravine. His body was found in a strange condition, partially buried under a pile of rubble, with his personal belongings scattered around. However, what was even more bizarre was the lack of any signs indicating he had attempted to escape the area. Despite being in a rugged terrain, there were no footprints or traces showing he had moved much in his final days. The question remains, how did he manage to get so far without being discovered for so many years? And why did he die in a place where no one seemed likely to find him? Even stranger were the personal items found at the scene. The small backpack he had been carrying was undamaged, but there was no food or water inside. However, what baffled investigators was a piece of paper found inside the backpack, containing strange and unexplainable writings. The paper had disjointed characters, fragments of information that seemed like some form of code or cipher. Some lines were simply unrelated words, while others contained peculiar drawings, circles and squares connected by intricate lines. This further added to the mystery. Did Mitchell write these notes during his time lost? Or were they his final attempts to communicate or decode something he experienced? No one could explain the meaning of the paper, and language experts were unable to decipher its contents. The paper became a haunting clue, but one that offered no answers. Additionally, another strange detail that made the case more perplexing was the condition of Mitchell's body when it was found. Although he had been missing for years, his body had not decomposed as expected. Forensic doctors concluded that, while the body had undergone natural decomposition, the rate of decay seemed slower than normal. This could not be explained by environmental conditions or temperature, as the area is typically hot and dry during the summer, conditions that would accelerate decomposition. Experts suggested that Mitchell's body appeared to have been preserved in an unusual way over time, sparking theories of supernatural phenomena or the involvement of some otherworldly factor. When we think of nature, the first images that may come to mind are peaceful valleys, snow-covered peaks, or endless green forests. National parks in the U.S., such as Yosemite, Mount Rainier, and Sequoia, symbolize the grandeur and untouched beauty of nature. They attract millions of visitors each year, people looking to immerse themselves in the serenity and pristine beauty of the earth. But behind this beauty lie mysteries that cannot be explained, disappearances that have become legendary, raising questions no one can answer. Why is it that some people can walk on familiar trails and never return? Is it due to the harshness of nature, or is there something deeper going on? The wilderness of America, with its treacherous mountains and dense forests, not only tests human physical endurance but also challenges our understanding. Imagine this: someone enters a forest equipped with a map, compass, and full gear. They've hiked before and have experience facing the wilderness, and yet they disappear. No trace, no explanation. Despite search efforts, even with advanced technology, no signs are found. This isn't just an ordinary accident, but a chilling reminder of what nature may conceal. One of the most memorable disappearances is the story of Harry Mahone. Mahone, a promising college student, joined two close friends on a bear hunting trip in the Sierra Nevada near Yosemite in 1925. Known for his wilderness survival skills, Mahone was not someone easily defeated by nature. However, an unexpected snowstorm put all three in danger. While trying to find their way back, Mahone vanished. His friends returned safely after the storm passed, but Harry never did. A search that lasted for months involved hundreds of people, including rangers and volunteers. His body was discovered the following summer in a location that had been searched multiple times before, but no one could explain why they had missed it. Was it the extreme conditions of nature, or had something supernatural intervened? The story of Judy Rodenkohl in 1956 is equally mysterious. A seemingly ordinary young girl from Wisconsin vanished on her way to school one autumn morning. After 2 days of desperate searching, she reappeared at a nearby farm, but had no memory of what had happened during her disappearance. Did something in nature disorient her, or did some unknown force interfere with her mind? No one knows, and Judy could never explain. Mount Rainier, one of the tallest and most famous mountains in the U.S., has also been the site of numerous unexplained disappearances over the years. In 1999, Mount Rainier became the focal point of search efforts when a series of climbers vanished without a trace. John Ripker, an experienced mountaineer, disappeared during an expedition with friends. Though there had been radio contact before he went missing, no one could find him for months afterward. Ripker's body was eventually discovered in a location that had already been searched multiple times, adding to the perplexity. In addition to Ripker, William Thayer, a young doctor with a passion for climbing, also disappeared on the same mountain just a few months later. Continued searches yielded no results, and Thayer's body was only found 2 years later in a remote area that no one had expected. Is there something special about Mount Rainier that causes so many to disappear? Is it just coincidence, or does this mountain harbor mysteries beyond human comprehension? Nature is not only a place where humans test their physical and mental strength, but also a realm where we confront unseen mysteries. From the dense forests of the Adirondacks to the treacherous peaks of the Sierra Nevada, the wilderness always holds invisible traps that only reveal their dangers once we truly enter. As disappearances continue and questions remain unanswered, human curiosity is piqued even more. Perhaps nature is not something we can fully understand through science and technology alone. Perhaps there is still much waiting to be discovered. Mysteries we have yet to imagine. In October 1925, one of the most mysterious disappearances in the history of the American wilderness occurred in the Sierra Nevada. Harry Mahone, a promising young college student with dreams of exploring uncharted territories, planned a week-long bear hunting trip with 2 close friends in the treacherous mountains of the Sierra Nevada. It was the perfect time for an adventure. Clear skies, fresh autumn air, and the breathtaking beauty of the snow-capped mountains. Harry was no ordinary student. He had a strong, adventurous spirit and a deep passion for nature and hunting. He and his friends had undertaken many similar trips before, but this one was different. A journey where nature seemed to lay invisible traps, waiting for them. For the first 2 days of the trip, everything went like a dream. Harry and his 2 companions trekked through dense forests, crossed icy streams, and camped on snow-covered hills. They spotted bear tracks, hinting at an imminent encounter with their big prey. But, as in many legendary tales, things suddenly took a drastic, unpredictable turn, as if nature decided to test their survival. On the 3rd day, as Harry's group ventured deeper into the mountains, the weather began to change. The clear blue sky quickly darkened with clouds. At first, the group thought it was just a light rain, but within moments, a cold wind swept through, bringing the first snowstorm of the season in powerful gusts. Before they realized it, a fierce snowstorm enveloped the entire area, transforming the peaceful scenery into a sea of white, with howling winds and temperatures plummeting below freezing. Harry's friends began to panic as they realized they could no longer see anything beyond the thick layers of snow. The group decided to find temporary shelter to weather the storm. However, as the situation worsened, Harry, with his strong survival instincts, suggested splitting up to search for a safer path. This was a fateful decision, and the last time anyone in the group saw Harry Mahone. Initially, Harry's friends were not too worried. They believed that, with his experience, Harry would return in a few hours with news of a safe route. But as night fell and the storm showed no signs of letting up, their anxiety grew. They called his name, even tried searching for him in the limited visibility, but all efforts were in vain. Harry had vanished into the thick snow, with no sign of him returning. The next day, when the storm subsided, Harry's friends quickly descended the mountain and reported his disappearance. A large-scale search operation was launched immediately. Hundreds of volunteers, rangers, and even military rescue teams combed the area. They used helicopters, sniffer dogs, and all available modern technology, but the results were only absolute emptiness. No trace of Harry was found, no footprints, no clues as to where he had gone. It was as if he had mysteriously vanished from the physical world, dissolved into thin air without leaving a single mark. The search continued for weeks, but the accumulating snow buried everything. The hope of finding Harry alive gradually faded as the cold winter months of the Sierra Nevada set in. Finally, just when everyone thought Harry's story had ended in the silence of nature, in the spring of the following year, Harry Mahone's body was unexpectedly discovered by an amateur hiking group. The strange part was where Harry's body was found. It lay in a narrow, treacherous ravine, far from the main trail, and in an area that had been searched multiple times before. The question was, how did his body end up there when the area had been thoroughly combed before? Why had no one noticed any signs before the snow melted? Even more puzzling was the condition of the body. Despite being missing for 6 months, Harry's body had not decomposed as one would expect. The wounds on his body made the situation even more confusing. There were long scratches on his skin, as if he had been dragged across rough terrain. But what stunned investigators the most was a deep cut on his wrist, leading many to suspect that Harry had taken his own life in desperation. However, no sharp tool was found near his body, which raised more questions. Had Harry encountered some force of nature, or even a stranger, in the deep forest? Was his body moved to the discovery site after he died, or had an invisible power drawn him there? The question lingered in the air without a clear answer. Another strange detail was Harry's sweater. It wasn't found on his body but neatly hung on a nearby branch, not far from where his body was discovered. The sweater wasn't torn or damaged, as if someone had intentionally placed it there to draw attention. This led many to speculate that human intervention, or perhaps even a supernatural element, was involved in the incident. The press at the time offered various theories. Some suggested that Harry had become lost and died of hypothermia after the sudden snowstorm. But the wounds on his body, the location of the body, and the mysterious sweater created a more complex picture. Had he been stalked and murdered? Or perhaps he encountered a group of outcasts living deep in the Sierra Nevada forests? Theories about supernatural interference were also mentioned, though they were not widely accepted. Despite the many theories, Harry Mahone's story remains shrouded in darkness. It became a frightening legend about the invisible traps of nature, where even experienced adventurers can easily fall victim to forces they cannot control. Harry Mahone wasn't the first person to disappear in the cold mountains, and he certainly wouldn't be the last. But what made Harry's disappearance different were the mysterious details surrounding the event. As if something in the shadows of the Sierra Nevada forests was silently guiding the fate of those who dared to step into its dangerous terrain. After Harry's body was found, not only his family and friends, but the local people were haunted by the story. Experienced hikers, locals, and even investigators admitted that something very strange had occurred. They began linking Harry's story to other unsolved disappearances in the area. Disappearances that also lacked any reasonable explanation. Before this, rumors had circulated about miners and drifters who had gone missing in the Sierra Nevada in the previous century. The miners recounted hearing strange sounds at night, whispered calls, unexplained footsteps, and faint shadows in the mist of the forests. Many tried to leave the area quickly after experiencing these unexplainable phenomena. A few who survived returned, but they never spoke about what really happened. Today's hikers also tell chilling stories of their own experiences. Some claim to have heard calls from deep within the forest, sounds not of human origin. Others say they've seen shadowy figures darting between the tall trees, lurking in the dark depths of the old forest. Could there be some entity hidden deep within the forest, silently watching and occasionally calling strangers into its grasp? After Harry's death, his story spread across America, sparking debates and theories about what nature might hold that humanity has yet to fully comprehend. Spiritualists began conducting investigations in the area, believing that the Sierra Nevada might be a focal point of supernatural energy, where spirits or mysterious entities still lurk. Some claim to feel a strong presence when they ventured into areas near where Harry's body was found. While spiritual investigations were never widely accepted by the scientific community, they drew significant public interest. Each time a new story about the Sierra Nevada was published, memories of Harry's disappearance resurfaced. And it wasn't just supernatural enthusiasts drawn to the story. Explorers also sought to test and uncover the truth behind these strange events. Meanwhile, Harry's family could never come to terms with his death. They began conducting their own investigations, hiring private detectives and even contacting people who had survived other disappearances in the wilderness. All led to one frightening conclusion. The Sierra Nevada wilderness is not a place where humans can explore lightly, without being prepared both physically and mentally. One particularly chilling story was told by a hunter. Just a few years before Harry disappeared, this man had an experience that haunted him for the rest of his life. While hunting deer near the spot where Harry's body was found, he heard a series of strange noises. At first, he thought they were just the footsteps of an animal, but the footsteps grew louder and clearer, as if someone or something was following him. Things turned bizarre when the footsteps suddenly stopped, and instead, a voice called out from deep within the forest. A voice he swore wasn't human or animal. The call seemed to emanate directly into his mind, paralyzing him. He stood frozen in the forest, unable to move until the voice vanished. Only then was he able to regain his senses and flee. From that day on, he swore never to return to the area. This only strengthened Harry's family's belief that his death was not merely an accident. But if it wasn't an accident, then what happened? Deep within the story, perhaps Harry encountered a force no one could see or feel, only leaving behind the strange marks he did. As years passed, Harry Mahone's story became a legend. New climbers coming to the Sierra Nevada were warned about the place where he disappeared. The shadows lurking in the forest and the mysterious calls remained the subjects of campfire stories, reviving memories of a baffling disappearance. Despite its grandeur and beauty, the Sierra Nevada proved that it could also become a deadly trap for those unlucky enough to be ensnared by its invisible mysteries. Nature, with all its wildness, remains a world where, no matter how advanced humans become, there are still corners we cannot control or understand. Harry's story is just one of many strange disappearances, but it left an indelible mark on those who heard it. And like many stories, Harry Mahone's tale does not end there. Survivors and believers in supernatural forces continue to visit the Sierra Nevada, searching for answers that nature has never been willing to reveal. Continuing this mysterious disappearance, we move to Wisconsin. On a typical autumn morning in 1956, 16-year-old Judy Rodenkall woke up, ready for her school day. Judy lived in a small, peaceful town in Wisconsin where everyone knew each other and life seemed very safe. The town was surrounded by thick forests and vast meadows, creating the serene countryside backdrop characteristic of rural America. With her long brown hair and bright blue eyes, Judy was an intelligent and energetic girl, known at school for her academic achievements and friendly personality. However, something strange happened that day, an event that no one could explain. Judy left home as usual, walking along the small path leading to the bus stop. The leaves had started turning a brilliant yellow under the morning sunlight, and there was no sign of anything out of the ordinary. But Judy never made it to school that morning. When her absence was noticed, the teachers contacted her family, and within hours, the entire town became worried about the young girl's disappearance. A search party was quickly organized. Townspeople, local police, and even rescue teams from nearby areas were mobilized. Tracking dogs were brought in to trace Judy's scent from her home to the bus stop, but all clues seemed to vanish after that point. The small road leading into the forest, which Judy walked every day, became the focus of everyone's search. No one could understand how a young girl with no psychological or family issues could mysteriously disappear like this. For 2 days, the quiet town of Wisconsin was turned upside down. The search went on day and night, with Judy's name echoing through the forest. Search dogs darted through bushes and across small streams, but found no trace of her. Fear began to spread. Judy's family was devastated, praying in confusion and fear, unsure of what had happened to their daughter. However, on the afternoon of the 3rd day, something strange occurred. A farmer living near the forest spotted Judy walking along a dirt road just a few miles from her home. She appeared suddenly, silently, and seemed completely unaware of what had happened over the past 3 days. When asked, Judy only stared blankly at the farmer with hollow eyes, unable to answer any questions about where she had been or what had happened. Her family quickly came to pick Judy up and took her home. But strangely, she couldn't remember anything from the moment she left home that morning until she was found. She had no injuries, her clothes were intact, but her mind seemed empty. Doctors were brought in to check her condition, but there were no signs of psychological or physical trauma. Judy only said she felt very tired and needed to rest. Judy Rodenkall's story quickly became a hot topic in the small town and attracted media attention. Reporters from all over came to interview her family and the people involved in the search. Everyone was confused. How could a young girl vanish for 3 days in the middle of a forest without leaving any traces? And more importantly, why couldn't she remember anything about that time? One of the strangest aspects of the case was that there was no indication Judy had been attacked or kidnapped. The search dogs found no traces beyond the road leading into the forest, and there was no evidence she had left the town. Some people in the town began to entertain more eerie theories. Some speculated that Judy might have been caught in some supernatural phenomenon. Perhaps she was pulled into another world, a void between reality and a different dimension. Others suggested Judy might have experienced something called temporary amnesia due to psychological stress, which made her unable to recall what happened during those 3 days. However, no one could explain what might have caused this, as Judy had been a cheerful girl with no signs of stress or depression before the event. Her family had no financial problems, and she had no conflicts or disputes with friends or family members. Still, others believed that Judy might have been hypnotized or influenced by some kind of stimulant, causing her memory loss. However, doctors found no evidence that she had been under the influence of any drugs. Everything remained a mystery, and this only made Judy's story more bizarre. Not long after Judy was found, some of the town's elders began to recount ancient stories about the forest where she had disappeared. They spoke of folklore passed down from their ancestors, tales about entities that lived in the forest, often appearing as shadows or strange lights, capable of disorienting people or even making them disappear for short periods. According to local legend, the forest had once been home to a mysterious Native American tribe. Townspeople said this tribe had vanished mysteriously centuries ago, and part of their spirits still lingered in the woods. Some believed that Judy might have encountered these spirits and gotten lost in another reality, where time moved more slowly and space was distorted. Some people in town had claimed to witness strange phenomena in the forest, glowing lights flickering in the dead of night, or whispers hidden among the ancient trees. A local hunter recalled one night when, while hunting near the area where Judy disappeared, he saw a faint, eerie light floating in the air. The light wasn't from a flashlight or any source he had ever known. It moved slowly, drifting through the trees like a ghost before vanishing mysteriously into the depths of the forest. Could it be that Judy had encountered such supernatural phenomena? Could the forest she stepped into have been a gateway to another dimension where time and space didn't function in the usual way? These questions only deepen the mystery of Judy's disappearance and return. After Judy's return, life slowly returned to normal, but the memory of her disappearance remained a large gap in her mind. Her family tried to help her resume her old routine, but Judy didn't seem to be the same cheerful girl she had once been. Though she never said it aloud, there was always a hidden fear in her eyes, as if she had seen something she couldn't remember or didn't want to. Whenever Judy stepped into the forest near her home, she felt a cold chill run down her spine, even on warm afternoons. Something in the forest seemed to still be watching her, silently, quietly. Life after Judy's return was never the same. Although she tried to resume her normal routine, she was no longer the carefree, happy 16-year-old she had once been. Despite her family, friends, and teachers doing everything they could to help her through this difficult time, the haunting memories of her disappearance never stopped weighing on her. Part of Judy remained trapped in the hazy darkness that she couldn't explain, and it made her more withdrawn and quiet than before. People in town began to notice the strange change in Judy's behavior. She no longer participated in social activities as before, gradually distancing herself from friends and frequently walking alone deep into the forest, despite her family's warnings. Each time she returned from these walks, her eyes were always distant and her demeanor darker. Her family grew worried, sensing that Judy was slowly becoming someone else, someone haunted by the vague memories of her time missing. Judy's solo trips into the forest only deepened her family's and the locals' fears. They were afraid she might encounter something unexpected, especially after what had already happened. Once, Judy's mother tried to stop her, but at that moment, Judy's eyes no longer seemed like those of an innocent 16-year-old girl. Her eyes were cold and distant, as though some invisible force was controlling her, compelling her to return to the forest. Judy's life began to be filled with strange dreams with no clear shape but that repeated themselves. In these dreams, she saw herself walking through dense forests but never able to escape. Sometimes she heard a distant voice calling, whispers that seemed to come from the old trees. Each time she tried to get closer, the voice became more distant, leading her deeper into an invisible maze of the old forest. When she woke, the confusion and fear lingered, making it hard for her to tell reality from dreams. Gradually, Judy became obsessed with the idea that something or someone was calling her back to the forest. She began to believe that her disappearance hadn't been random, but rather a summons from an entity living in the woods. Late at night, she even heard a whispering call in her mind, vague and unclear, but always repeating a single message: "Come back, Judy." She didn't tell anyone about this, but the urge to return to the forest grew stronger. Sometimes, as she stood at the edge of the woods, she felt an invisible force pulling her forward, back to the place she couldn't remember, but was certain she had been during her 3 days of disappearance. Each time she got near the forest's edge, something seemed to be waiting for her there. A fleeting shadow among the ancient trees, or a glimpse of someone or something that chilled her to the bone. One afternoon, Judy decided to return to the forest where she had disappeared. Unable to resist the call in her head any longer, she ventured deep into the woods without bringing any gear. This time, she didn't encounter strange lights or mysterious phenomena, but in her mind, everything became clearer. She felt as if she was retracing her steps to where she had been during those 3 lost days, although there were no maps or obvious signs to guide her. She simply felt it. As she ventured deeper into the forest, Judy suddenly stopped at a small clearing surrounded by towering trees. This, she realized, was the spot where she had disappeared. But instead of feeling scared or confused, Judy felt an unusual calm, as if she had returned home after a long journey. But the strangest thing was the powerful feeling that crept into her mind at that moment. She had never truly left this place. In that moment, Judy felt as if time had stopped. The scenery around her seemed to dissolve, leaving her alone in an empty space, and everything became clearer than ever. She recalled part of those lost 3 days. She had encountered an entity, something that wasn't human, but also not quite a ghost. It existed only in dreams and thoughts, but it had pulled her out of the real world and into another space, where time didn't exist as she had known it. Judy couldn't remember the entity's face clearly, but the sense of its presence was overwhelming. It had whispered words she couldn't understand, but she knew she had to return to the forest. This explained the urge she had always felt since coming back. This entity was still there, waiting for her, wanting her to return and complete something unresolved. When Judy left the forest that day, she was no longer the confused girl unsure of what had happened. But she wasn't entirely free from the mystery that had engulfed her life either. She knew she had been drawn into something far larger and stranger than she could imagine. The biggest question now was, would she ever escape that call? Or would she forever be haunted by the forest and the entity she had encountered during those 3 lost days? Afterward, Judy returned to town as usual, but the changes in her couldn't go unnoticed. Her gaze always seemed distant, often fixed on the forest, as if she was listening to sounds only she could hear. Her family, despite trying their best to bring normalcy to her life, could never shake the fear that she might disappear again. And the biggest question remained in everyone's minds. What had Judy truly experienced during those 3 days? The fragments of truth she remembered were only a small piece of a much larger puzzle, one filled with mysteries no one could explain. Mount Rainier, with its snow-covered peak year-round and treacherous terrain, is not only an attractive destination for adventurous climbers, but also a place shrouded in unexplainable mysteries. One of the most notable mysterious disappearances there is the story of John Ripker and his climbing group in 1999. This incident not only made the climbing community more cautious when facing the harsh elements of nature, but also raised many unanswered questions about their strange and terrifying disappearance. John Ripker was an experienced mountaineer, having conquered many high peaks around the world. He and 4 of his close friends decided to take on Mount Rainier, one of the tallest and most challenging mountains in North America. It was summer, a time when the weather on Mount Rainier is notoriously unpredictable and changes rapidly. Confident and well-prepared, Ripker's group began their journey, unaware that they were about to face a challenge not only of physical endurance, but of forces beyond human control. The climb went smoothly in the early days. The sky was clear, and conditions were considered ideal for mountaineering. However, as the group ascended past 3,000 meters, the weather began to shift. Dark clouds quickly rolled in, and the temperature plummeted. The wind howled, and in the blink of an eye, the sky was engulfed in a violent snowstorm. It was the kind of weather that even experienced mountaineers feared. But Ripker's group had no choice but to press on, hoping to find temporary shelter. Despite being fully equipped with survival gear, the group soon encountered serious difficulties. Visibility was reduced to only a few meters, and the snowstorm's fierce winds seemed capable of sweeping anyone off balance. All contact with the group was lost as they attempted to send emergency signals through their radio. In that fateful moment, the entire group vanished completely from the rescue team's radar and control stations. Rescue efforts were immediately organized as soon as the snowstorm subsided. Helicopters and rescue teams were deployed to search for Ripker's group, but no trace was found. For weeks, hundreds of volunteers and mountaineering experts combed Mount Rainier, scouring every hill and ravine, hoping to find some clue about the missing climbers. But strangely, there were no footprints, no equipment, nothing. It was as if the group had disappeared into thin air. Months passed in eerie silence. The families and friends of the missing climbers gradually lost hope, but no one could explain what had happened to them. In many other disappearance cases, bodies or at least clues were usually found not long after. But Ripker's case was different. Their disappearance seemed to defy all natural laws. Then, in September 1999, when hope had nearly faded, something unexpected happened. Another group of climbers, on their way to conquer Mount Rainier's summit, stumbled upon the bodies of 2 members of Ripker's group. Remarkably, they were found in an area that had been thoroughly searched multiple times by rescue teams. The bodies were discovered on a rocky slope, lying in a small ravine, covered by snow that had concealed them until the warmer weather caused the snow to melt. When the rescue teams were notified and arrived at the scene, a sense of confusion and unease swept over everyone. How had these bodies remained there for months without being discovered, despite the area being searched so carefully before? Moreover, the condition of the bodies raised further questions. Although they had been covered by snow for an extended period, the bodies were not as decomposed as expected. They were still fully dressed, and their climbing equipment was mostly intact. There were no signs of animal attacks or serious injuries, but their eyes were wide open, and the expressions on their faces suggested they had witnessed something horrifying just before their deaths. But the story didn't end there. When the bodies of Ripker's 2 friends were brought back and further investigated, no clear clues emerged as to the cause of their deaths. There were no signs of hypothermia or oxygen deprivation, common causes of death in dangerous climbing situations. There was also no indication that they had become lost or trapped in a hazardous area. Everything seemed normal until they suddenly died. In a subsequent search, a detail emerged that deepened the mystery. John Ripker's body, the group leader, was found just 500 meters away from where his 2 friends were discovered. Strangely, his body was lying in an open area on a slope that had been searched multiple times before. This location couldn't have been overlooked during the initial searches, yet it seemed his body only appeared after the snow had melted. What happened to John Ripker and his group during their disappearance? How did these bodies turn up in locations that had been searched thoroughly before? And why was there no clear evidence pointing to the cause of their deaths? Mountaineering experts and rescue teams were baffled by these unanswered questions. Theories about Ripker's group's disappearance began to spread. Some suggested that the group had been caught in a minor avalanche, which temporarily buried them, and their bodies were only freed as the snow melted. However, this theory was quickly dismissed as there were no signs of any avalanches in the area during that time. Others speculated that the group had fallen victim to a rare natural phenomenon, such as whiteout conditions, a psychological effect in harsh weather and low light that causes disorientation and a loss of mental control. However, this theory didn't explain why the bodies showed no signs of obvious trauma or a definitive cause of death. And then, there were those who believed in supernatural explanations. Some said that Mount Rainier, with its legendary history, might be home to mysterious entities or supernatural forces. Native American legends spoke of lost spirits on the mountain, entities that protected the mountain and could lead or take away the souls of the unlucky. Could John Ripker and his group have been drawn into something beyond the reach of logic and science? The disappearance and mysterious deaths of John Ripker and his group of climbers left behind many unanswered questions. Even though their bodies were found, the secrets of what happened during their disappearance remained hidden beneath a thick fog. Much like the summit of Mount Rainier they had attempted to conquer. The discovery of John Ripker's body and the two friends was only the beginning of a strange and eerie chain of events that would continue to haunt everyone involved in the disappearance at Mount Rainier. After the initial bodies were found, the biggest question remained: what had really happened during the months they were missing? But as more details came to light, the mystery only deepened and became more incomprehensible. John Ripker's body, although found just 500 meters from his friends, raised a host of new questions. His body was completely intact, with no signs of serious injuries, and his clothes were untouched, as if he had died only recently. However, his wide-open eyes and the expression of fear and despair on his face sent chills down anyone who saw him. What had John experienced in his final moments? Why did such an experienced mountaineer die in such a mysterious way? Investigators began to re-examine the earlier clues, but every theory led to a dead end. There were no signs of a struggle, no indications that Ripker's group had tried to defend themselves from a threat. All of them seemed to have died suddenly, without any signs of resistance or conflict. Even stranger, John's communication equipment was found intact in his backpack, but there were no signs that he had tried to use it in his final hours. The investigation deepened when authorities decided to conduct autopsies to determine the cause of death. But what they discovered only made the case more baffling. All three bodies, though exposed to the elements for months, showed no signs of typical decomposition. Their skin hadn't turned dark like victims of hypothermia, instead retaining a strange pale pink hue, as if they had only recently died. Furthermore, despite enduring the summer heat, there were no clear signs of decay or rot on their bodies, completely contradicting the weather conditions they had faced. Scientists began to propose new theories. Some suggested the group may have encountered an extremely rare biological phenomenon that prevented their bodies from decomposing as usual. However, further research provided no clear answers. Another theory suggested that the group had stumbled into an area where time and space were distorted, somehow preserving their bodies in a suspended state between life and death. Although this theory sounded far-fetched, it was one of the few explanations that could account for the body's strange condition. The mystery didn't end there. During further investigation into the disappearance, a new detail emerged. Another group member, William Harris, who had not yet been found, remained a major enigma. After reviewing the radio and navigation data the group had carried, investigators discovered that on the night the group disappeared, a weak signal had been transmitted from Harris's device. This signal was recorded just a few hours after the snowstorm began, but no one had received the distress signal. This indicated that at least one member of the group was still alive after official contact had been lost. However, the location where the signal was transmitted raised even more questions. It was detected in a much more remote area than where Ripker and the other two members were found, in an isolated and rugged part of Mount Rainier, an area few climbers had ever reached. This begged the question: why had William Harris left the group and ventured to such a distant place, especially when severe weather conditions should have kept them together for survival? Was he trying to escape something, Or had he panicked and gotten lost? When rescue teams returned to the area where Harris's last signal had been detected, they hoped to find new clues about what had happened. But as they ventured deeper into the wilderness, something strange occurred. Despite using modern navigation equipment and detailed maps of the area, some members of the search team reported feeling inexplicably disoriented. They described a sensation as if they had stepped into an entirely different space, one where the normal laws of physics no longer applied. Everything around them became eerily silent, as if even the wind had stopped blowing. Some team members even reported hearing faint whispers in the air, but when they turned to find the source, no one was there. After 3 days of fruitless searching, the rescue teams were forced to return. William Harris remained missing, and the last signal he sent became one of the biggest mysteries of the case. Every theory, from getting lost to encountering a natural disaster, was dismissed for lack of convincing evidence. The question of why one group member had separated and ventured deeper into dangerous territory with no clear reason remained unanswered. What made the situation even more terrifying was that many climbers and hunters had previously reported strange phenomena in the area where Harris's signal had been detected. Some claimed to have seen faint lights flickering between the mountains at night, while others reported hearing strange footsteps in the forest, even when no one else was nearby. These stories, though often dismissed as local legends, matched what the search team had experienced. The theory of supernatural intervention resurfaced once again. Some spiritualists suggested that Mount Rainier might be a convergence point for energies not of this world, a place where those who wander in could be drawn into another dimension. They believed that Ripker's group may have encountered some supernatural phenomenon, leading them to become disoriented and ultimately causing their mysterious deaths. The disappearance and deaths of John Ripker and his group of climbers remain one of the greatest mysteries of Mount Rainier. Despite multiple investigations, no satisfying answers have ever been found for the strange events that took place. William Harris has never been found, and the area where his signal was last detected remains a no-go zone for many climbers today. Mesa Verde National Park, one of America's natural and archaeological wonders, is famous for its majestic cliffs and ancient Native American Anasazi ruins. It was also the site of one of the most mysterious disappearances in the early 21st century. Mitchell Dale Sterling, a man with a deep passion for exploration and adventure, left the familiar tourist trail on a beautiful sunny day in June 2005 and never returned. His disappearance sparked much debate and speculation, turning the event into a haunting and frightening mystery. Mitchell Dale Sterling, 47, was an amateur explorer with a love for hiking and venturing into the wilderness. While he had some experience with short trips, he was not considered an expert in survival or long-distance trekking in harsh terrain. Sterling arrived at Mesa Verde with the intention of exploring less visited areas, hoping to enjoy the solitude and learn more about the ancient culture of the Anasazi people. However, no one could have predicted the strange circumstances surrounding his disappearance and the complete lack of trace for many years afterward. On that fateful morning, Mitchell left camp without carrying the proper gear for a long trek. He wore a light jacket, walking shoes, and carried a small bottle of water, hardly enough to survive a deep exploration into Mesa Verde's dangerous and unpredictable areas. As the sun rose higher, he wandered onto less traveled paths, quietly vanishing from the sight of other visitors. When Mitchell failed to return by the afternoon as planned, his family and friends grew worried. They contacted park officials, and soon after, a large-scale search was launched. Rescue teams, tracking dogs, and helicopters were deployed to find Mitchell. Search crews scoured the nearby areas, turning over every rock and valley in hopes of finding some trace of him. But after days of searching, they found nothing. No footprints, no clues as to where Mitchell had gone. It was as if he had stepped into another world, unreachable by anyone. For months afterward, the search continued. More remote and dangerous areas of the park were investigated, but no clues were found. Mitchell's family, though persistent and hopeful, slowly had to face the reality that he might never return. Theories began to surface, but all were overshadowed by the strange circumstances surrounding his disappearance. One early theory was that Mitchell had gotten lost and died from dehydration or exposure. However, the strange thing was that according to what was known, Mitchell hadn't ventured too far from the usual trails, or at least that's what people believed. If he had gotten lost, why was no trace of him found, not even a scrap of clothing, shoes, or personal belongings? There was no indication that Mitchell had suffered an accident or faced any danger. The complete silence from nature only fueled more chilling speculations. Some began to speculate about supernatural forces at Mesa Verde. This park, with its towering cliffs and deep Anasazi caves, has long been associated with numerous legends and mysteries. It was said that the spirits of the Anasazi people still wandered there, guarding their ancient secrets and ruins. There were stories of people experiencing strange phenomena while hiking through the less-known areas of the park. Some claimed to have heard strange whispers in the wind or seen dark figures swiftly moving through the canyons at dusk. Had Mitchell Dale Sterling accidentally wandered into a sacred Anasazi area? Had he been drawn into another reality where time and space were distorted? These eerie theories were not officially acknowledged by investigators, but they made his disappearance all the more haunting for those intrigued by the case. Another theory leaned towards the possibility that Mitchell had stumbled upon something that wasn't meant to be seen. Archaeologists have long known that Mesa Verde is one of the most unexplored regions in North America, full of ancient relics. Could Mitchell have discovered a hidden entrance leading to a burial chamber or an undiscovered area of the Anasazi? And if so, did he encounter something beyond his control? Years of searching yielded no results, until in 2009, a shocking discovery was made. Mitchell Dale Sterling's remains were found in an unexpected location, miles away from where he was initially thought to have disappeared. An amateur hiking group, while exploring a rugged area of Mesa Verde, stumbled upon his skeletal remains, deep in an almost inaccessible ravine. The story of Mitchell Dale Sterling's disappearance at Mesa Verde National Park didn't end with the discovery of his remains. Instead, the discovery only deepened the mystery, creating more questions than ever before. The case became infamous not only because of the length of time Mitchell was missing, but also because of the strange details surrounding his death and the location where his body was found. When the hiking group accidentally found Mitchell's remains in 2009, a series of bizarre events unfolded around the investigation. The location of the body was one of the most perplexing aspects. It was in a deep, remote ravine, far from any trail that would have been easily accessible to him. Terrain experts confirmed that to reach that area, Mitchell would have had to traverse steep, dangerous paths that even the most experienced climbers would approach with caution. How did he, with inadequate supplies and no signs of preparation for a long journey, make it so far without any signs of fatigue or attempts to seek help? What was even stranger was the discovery of his personal belongings at the scene. The small backpack he had carried was undamaged, but there was no food or water inside. However, what puzzled investigators the most was a piece of paper found in the backpack, containing strange and unexplainable writings. The paper held disconnected symbols and fragments of information, resembling some kind of code or cipher. Some lines were simply unrelated words, while others contained peculiar drawings, circles and squares connected by intricate lines. This baffled everyone even more. Had Mitchell written these notes while lost? Or were these his final attempts to communicate or decode something he had experienced? No one could explain the meaning of the paper, and even language experts couldn't decipher its contents. The paper became a haunting clue, but one that provided no answers. Moreover, another strange detail that made the case even more perplexing was the condition of Mitchell's body when it was found. Despite having been missing for years, his body hadn't decomposed as expected. Forensic doctors noted that while the body had undergone natural decomposition, the rate of decay seemed slower than normal. This couldn't be explained by environmental conditions or temperature, as the area is typically hot and dry in the summer, which should have sped up decomposition. Experts suggested that Mitchell's body had been preserved in some unusual way over time, sparking theories of supernatural phenomena or intervention by an external force beyond nature. The questions surrounding Mitchell's disappearance grew more complex as local witnesses began recounting strange stories about the Mesa Verde area. Some hunters living nearby recalled hearing eerie noises coming from the forest and cliffs at night in the weeks following Mitchell's disappearance. Sounds that didn't belong to either humans or animals. Whispering voices, laughter, and even whistling noises echoed through the canyons, sending chills down the spines of those who heard them. Another witness claimed that on the night before Mitchell's body was discovered, they saw a strange light on the mountain near where he went missing. This light didn't resemble the search team's lights or a helicopter. It moved slowly, floating in the air like a dimly glowing orb before vanishing into the night. Some in the town began to believe that what happened to Mitchell wasn't a normal disappearance, but rather something connected to a supernatural event they couldn't understand. The discovery of Mitchell's body didn't provide clear answers, but only raised more questions. Investigators continued to propose theories, but none of them were entirely satisfactory. One popular theory suggested that Mitchell may have wandered off in a panic after leaving the trail, unknowingly venturing deeper into the wilderness. But if that were the case, why had he traveled so far that he couldn't return? And why were there no signs that he had attempted to find his way back? Some began to believe that a mysterious element had intervened in his disappearance. One bold theory was that he had encountered a rare natural phenomenon, such as a time-space distortion, an area where time and space could be warped. Although far-fetched, this theory held a strange allure, given that his body was found so far from where he initially disappeared, without any evidence that he had made such a long journey. Other theories questioned whether Mitchell may have been followed or encountered a group of people in his final days. Had he become trapped in a situation beyond his control, forcing him to flee to such a remote location? But again, no clear evidence supported this theory, and his disappearance remained shrouded in darkness. The story of strange lights and eerie sounds quickly spread, and some began to speculate that Mitchell had been called to a place from which he couldn't escape. According to local legends, Mesa Verde had long been home to ancient spirits, entities that didn't belong to the human world, but existed in the space between two realms. These entities, according to legend, had the ability to lure humans, pulling them into their own space where time and space no longer followed the usual rules. Some paranormal researchers began to suspect that Mitchell might have accidentally triggered a time gate or some abnormal spatial phenomenon in Mesa Verde, causing him to be drawn into another dimension for a long time. This could explain why his body was so well preserved and how he could have traveled so far without any explanation. The strange characters in his notebook were also seen as evidence that he had encountered something extraordinary and had tried to document or decipher what had happened to him. Even more disturbing was the belief among many in the supernatural community that Mitchell wasn't the first victim of these mysterious phenomena. In the years before Mitchell's disappearance, there had been numerous reports of unexplained disappearances at Mesa Verde. Visitors, hunters, and locals vanishing without a trace. While no clear evidence linked these cases, the timing and location led many to believe that the area did indeed harbor an unexplainable force. Some scientists, though skeptical of supernatural theories, also had to admit that Mitchell's disappearance and the strange details surrounding his death were baffling and difficult to explain through conventional knowledge. All theories of getting lost, accidents, or dehydration failed to adequately solve the mystery. The story of Mitchell Dale Sterling and his mysterious disappearance at Mesa Verde National Park has become a chilling legend among adventurers and hiking enthusiasts. Though his body was found, the mysteries surrounding the case were never fully resolved. How could an experienced explorer vanish for years without leaving a trace, only to be found in an area no one would expect? Did he encounter a rare natural event, or is there something ancient from the Anasazi past still lurking, guarding its secrets? Whatever the answer may be, the story of Mitchell Dale Sterling continues to evoke curiosity, fear, and doubt. The cliffs and canyons of Mesa Verde remain eerily silent, concealing secrets no one has yet unlocked, and Mitchell's disappearance has become part of the unanswerable mystery of the wild. Julia Devlin, a talented university lecturer at the University of Virginia, mysteriously disappeared during the summer of 2021 in Shenandoah National Park. As a nature lover who frequently enjoyed hiking to relax and escape everyday life, Julia was no stranger to forests and rugged trails. However, the last time she entered Shenandoah became a terrifying, perplexing, and mysterious ordeal. In July 2021, Julia embarked on a hike in Shenandoah, a park known for its winding trails, treacherous mountain ranges, and breathtaking natural beauty. However, shortly after she went missing, a series of strange and inexplicable events unfolded. Julia's car was found crashed along a secluded trail in the park. The car appeared abandoned, with only minor signs of impact, but there were no clues as to where Julia had gone after the accident. There was no blood or evidence that she had been seriously injured. Police and rescue teams could find no clues as to where Julia went after her car crashed. The search began with the hope that Julia had merely gotten lost after leaving her vehicle. Rescue teams, helicopters, and search dogs scoured every inch of land surrounding the crash site. Yet, despite their best efforts, no trace of her was found for many days. The area where Julia was believed to have disappeared showed no signs of a struggle or any indication that she had encountered someone or something. What was even stranger was that Julia was an experienced hiker with a good knowledge of survival skills. Why had she left her car without taking essential items, and why had she not left any clues to suggest she had attempted to return or seek help? As the days passed without news, the search became more desperate. Each time rescue teams ventured deeper into the forest, they were hampered by difficult terrain and worsening weather conditions. Heavy rains and thick fog obscured visibility, making the area where Julia went missing increasingly ominous. Some search team members even reported feeling as though someone was watching them from afar, casting a heavy and suffocating atmosphere over the search. The search dogs, typically reliable in tracking human scents, were unable to pick up any trace of Julia. On multiple occasions, the dogs seemed disoriented and unable to determine a direction. This led to suspicions about whether Julia had encountered something unusual that caused the dogs to lose her scent entirely. The eerie silence surrounding the search efforts raised unsettling questions. Was Julia still alive? And if so, where was she? Or had she been drawn into some supernatural occurrence in the mysterious forests of Shenandoah? Nearly 2 weeks after Julia's disappearance, her body was found far from where her car had crashed. What made the discovery more perplexing was that her remains were located in a hard-to-reach area, situated along a steep cliffside. There were no clear signs that Julia had climbed or moved there on her own. This raised the question, how had she reached that location, and why? Julia's body showed no signs of assault or foul play, but light bruising and a few minor scratches left police unsure about the exact cause of her death. She had no survival gear with her, and there were no signs that she had attempted to find water or food. A feeling of isolation, coldness, and unease lingered over the area where her body was discovered, as though something invisible had guided Julia to her death. The case took an even stranger turn when investigators couldn't explain why Julia's body was found in such a remote place. Had she climbed the cliff herself, or had someone, or something, forced her there? Every theory remained speculative, with no clear explanation. Soon after Julia's body was discovered, a series of eerie phenomena began to occur, not only to the search teams but also to nearby witnesses. Some rescue team members reported feeling a sudden chill whenever they approached the spot where Julia's body was found. It wasn't just a typical cold sensation, but a deep, unnatural chill, as if an invisible presence stood right beside them. One searcher, an experienced rescuer familiar with missing person cases, claimed to have seen a dark shadow pass by in the distance while standing on a mountaintop. He believed it was just fatigue-induced hallucination, but a chill ran down his spine. Later, other members of the team also reported seeing strange lights moving through the dense forest at night, as if something or someone was watching them from the darkness. These occurrences quickly spread within the community and became the subject of intense discussion. Some began to speculate that Julia had encountered some supernatural force in the final moments of her life. Drawing from local legends about Shenandoah, many believed Julia may have wandered into a forbidden area, a place where ancient spirits or mysterious entities still existed and guarded their territory. The mystery deepened when investigators began analyzing Julia's electronic devices, including her cell phone and GPS trackers she had carried during her trip. Though her phone battery had long since died, technicians discovered a series of strange, distorted signals recorded from Julia's phone on the day of her disappearance. These signals weren't typical calls or messages, but appeared as garbled signals, intermittently appearing and disappearing over the span of several hours before the phone finally lost connection. Even stranger was that these signals were detected from multiple locations in Shenandoah Park, far from where Julia's body was found. How could her phone have emitted signals from such different locations when she had been out of contact for so long? Supernatural theories began to emerge, with speculation that Julia may have been transported or moved by some force before her death at the final site. In the weeks following Julia's death, many witnesses, including locals and other hikers, began reporting strange occurrences in the areas surrounding Shenandoah Park. One group of hikers claimed to have heard faint cries for help emanating from the forest at night, as though someone was calling out from a distance. Frighteningly, when they approached the area where the sound had originated, they were met with absolute silence, as if an invisible presence was watching them. Other witnesses also claimed to have seen footprints that didn't seem to belong to a human, but when they followed the tracks, they abruptly stopped in the middle of thick brush, as if the person who made them had vanished into thin air. One longtime local resident who had lived near the area for years recounted old native legends about the spirits of those who had perished in failed journeys through the treacherous mountains. According to these legends, these spirits could lure or capture those who wandered into their domain, preventing them from ever returning. He believed that Julia Devlin might have unknowingly become a victim of one of these ancient tales. Despite numerous theories and mysterious phenomena, no explanation could fully clarify Julia Devlin's death. The official investigation concluded with no definitive cause of death, and authorities could only speculate that she may have been injured after her car accident and unable to survive on her own in the deep woods. However, the strange details, such as the bizarre phone signals, mysterious occurrences at the discovery site, and the appearance of eerie lights at night, made the case a fascinating puzzle that no one could completely unravel. Julia's loved ones, along with researchers and investigators, continue searching for answers. What truly happened to Julia Devlin? Did she meet with an accident or become lost? Or was there something greater, something unseen, that drew her into a mysterious, inescapable journey? Each question leads to more speculation, and no one can say with certainty what happened to her in her final moments in Shenandoah National Park. Julia Devlin's story is not just a simple case of a missing person, but has become a modern legend of the unexplained. Shenandoah National Park remains a place of untold mysteries, a space where nature and the inexplicable still exist, waiting for those brave enough to explore its depths. Barbara McGee, a 38-year-old woman, mysteriously vanished during the summer of 1965 in Sequoia National Park, marking one of the strangest and most enigmatic disappearances in the park's history. Barbara McGee was an independent woman with a love for adventure and exploration. With a high-pressure job in a big city, she often sought refuge in the wilderness to relieve stress and restore balance in her life. In the summer of 1965, she decided to spend a week in Sequoia National Park, seeking the peace and quiet of the ancient forests. Sequoia Park, renowned for its giant sequoia trees and deep remote forests, was a familiar destination for Barbara. She had visited the park before and had some knowledge of the terrain. Equipped with everything she needed, she set out with plans to spend most of her time exploring the lesser-known trails. She also planned to update her family regularly by calling from payphones at ranger stations along her route. However, just 3 days after her departure, Barbara suddenly stopped contacting her family. She failed to make the scheduled phone calls and did not return as planned. Concerned, her family alerted park rangers, and a large-scale search was immediately launched. At first, everyone hoped she had simply gotten lost or encountered a minor problem. But as time passed, hope began to fade. The search for Barbara McGee quickly intensified. Rangers, rescue teams, and volunteers began scouring the trails she was believed to have taken. Helicopters were dispatched to search from above, and search dogs were brought in to follow her scent. Strangely, no clues were found. There were no signs of a campsite, no footprints, no personal items, and no one had seen Barbara since she left the last ranger station. Sequoia National Park is vast and rugged, but Barbara was experienced, and her family believed she knew how to survive if she encountered minor difficulties. Despite this, every effort to find her over the course of several weeks yielded nothing. Her disappearance seemed to be an unsolvable mystery, completely beyond human understanding. One notable aspect of the search was the search dogs, which were trained to follow the scent of missing persons. There were multiple reports that the dogs initially picked up Barbara's scent near the ranger station, but as they moved deeper into the forest, the dogs inexplicably lost the trail and began showing signs of distress. Some even appeared scared. On several occasions, the dogs refused to continue along the trail, as if sensing something unsettling in the area. The search continued for months, but in the end, no trace of Barbara was ever found. Her disappearance seemed to have been completely swallowed by nature, leaving unanswered questions for her family and investigators. Sequoia National Park, with its towering sequoias and the deep shadows cast by its forests, appeared to have hidden the secret of Barbara McGee's fate. The event caused a sensation and led to numerous strange theories. Some speculated that Barbara had suffered an unavoidable accident, such as falling into a deep ravine that no one could find. However, seasoned searchers with years of experience found this explanation unconvincing, as the search had covered most of the park's hazardous areas. Another, more mysterious and captivating theory involved supernatural occurrences. Sequoia National Park has long been linked to legends of mysterious entities dwelling deep in the woods. Stories tell of forbidden lands where ancient spirits or creatures beyond human comprehension exist and guard their territory. Could Barbara have accidentally wandered into such a place and become lost in a way no one could explain? There were also rumors of space-time anomalies, places where time and space were distorted, allowing a person to disappear entirely without leaving any trace. Did Barbara encounter such a phenomenon? Could she have entered another dimension where no trace of her could be found? Barbara McGee's disappearance serves as a chilling reminder of nature's unpredictability. No matter how experienced or well-prepared one may be, the wilderness can always harbor risks that cannot be foreseen. Disappearances like Barbara's highlight humanity's helplessness in the face of the power and mystery of the wild. Years later, Barbara's disappearance remains a major unsolved mystery. Sequoia National Park still stands, its giant trees seemingly guarding the deep secrets of the forest. The story of Barbara McGee has become a modern legend, a cautionary tale for those who dare to step into a world where nature holds all the control. Did Barbara McGee truly become lost in the deep woods? Or did she encounter something mysterious beyond human understanding? Those questions may never be answered, and her disappearance will forever remain one of the greatest mysteries in the park's history. On June 10, 1993, 64-year-old Hildegard Hendrickson, an experienced mushroom forager, went on a familiar mushroom hunting trip with a group of fellow enthusiasts in the Cascade Mountain area. For Hildegard, outings like this were nothing new. With decades of expertise in mycology, she was considered one of the top experts in the field. Hildegard had explored and studied mushrooms in many remote and dangerous areas, but had never encountered any serious accidents. That morning, the group set out from a campsite in the forest. Hildegard told her fellow mushroom hunters that she would venture into a particular area she had explored before. No one was worried, as Hildegard was known for being careful, with excellent navigation skills and always well prepared for long treks in the woods. However, as time passed and Hildegard did not return as planned, concerns started to grow. After hours of searching without success, the group notified local rangers and authorities. A large-scale search was immediately launched, involving hundreds of volunteers and professional rescuers combing the area where Hildegard was last seen. Strangely, no clues were found. No footprints, no personal items, and no one had seen her after she left the group. The search for Hildegard lasted for weeks, covering all the possible routes she might have taken. Rescue teams used helicopters, drones, and search dogs to trace any signs of her. But what puzzled everyone was that the search dogs failed to pick up any scent from Hildegard. This baffled investigators, as missing persons usually leave behind some trace, whether it be footprints or a piece of clothing. In Hildegard's case, however, it was as though she had vanished into thin air. One of the most perplexing details was the radio interference and signal loss encountered by the rescue teams as they ventured deeper into the area where Hildegard was believed to have disappeared. These areas seemed to have a dead zone where all electronic devices, from cell phones to the rescue team's radios, ceased to function without any apparent reason. This severely hampered search efforts, and some began to fear that something inexplicable was at work. There were also reports from rangers who experienced strange sensations while searching the area. Some described feeling as though they were being watched, despite no one else being nearby, while others heard faint whispers from deep within the forest, as if someone was speaking but the source of the sound couldn't be located. These eerie occurrences gave rise to supernatural theories, with some speculating that Hildegard may have encountered a mysterious force or entity within the forest. Months passed without any breakthrough, and authorities were left at a dead end. Various theories emerged, from Hildegard possibly falling into a hidden ravine to being attacked by wild animals. However, there were no signs of violence or struggle found in the area. Some began to speculate about the supernatural, citing the mysterious legends surrounding the Cascade Mountains. Local Native American tribes and residents had long spoken of spirits or forest entities residing in the remote, less explored parts of the mountain range. Tales of adventurers and hikers vanishing without a trace were not uncommon, and some believed that Hildegard may have unknowingly trespassed into the territory of such beings. Other, more far-fetched theories suggested the possibility of alien abduction. The Cascade Mountains, with their rugged, secluded terrain, had long been known as a hotspot for UFO sightings. Though these ideas seemed outlandish, in Hildegard's case, where no human or natural clues could be found, all possibilities were considered. Years after Hildegard Hendrickson's disappearance, the search continued, but no trace of her was ever found. Her disappearance remains one of the greatest unsolved mysteries in the history of the Cascade Mountain region. Her family and friends, though they never gave up hope, continue to live in anguish and confusion over what happened to her in her final moments. Hildegard Hendrickson's story is more than just a simple case of a missing person. It's a stark reminder of the overwhelming power and mystery of nature. The Cascade Mountains, with their towering peaks and unpredictable wilderness, still harbor their dark secrets. Despite the many search efforts, we may never truly know what happened to Hildegard on that fateful day. Paula Jean Weldon, a sophomore at Bennington College, disappeared mysteriously on a cold Sunday afternoon in December 1946. Known for her adventurous spirit and love of hiking, Paula set off for a solo hike on the Long Trail, a well-known path along the Green Mountains. Wearing a bright red coat, hiking boots, and carrying little more than a small wallet, Paula ventured out on a journey that would leave behind one of the most baffling disappearance cases in U.S. history. She did not specify when she would return to her friends or family, but no one was particularly concerned since Paula was an experienced hiker and only planned to be gone for a few hours. Several people saw her walking toward the Long Trail's entrance, including an elderly couple who stopped their car to ask if she needed a ride. They reported that she appeared cheerful and confident. However, as the sun began to set and Paula had not returned, concerns started to grow. She did not come back to her dormitory, and when her family tried to contact her, they received no response. The sense of unease quickly spread as Paula seemed to have vanished without a trace. Soon after her disappearance, a large-scale search was launched, involving police, park rangers, and hundreds of volunteers. They scoured every corner of the Long Trail, from marked paths to remote, rugged terrain. Search teams were assisted by helicopters and tracking dogs, but the first eerie discovery was that no trace of Paula could be found. There were no footprints, no personal belongings, no scraps of clothing. It was as if she had simply disappeared into thin air. The search dogs, trained to track the scent of missing people, also faced unusual difficulties. They lost Paula's scent after a short distance, something investigators could not explain. It was as though something invisible was preventing the search from progressing. As the search parties ventured deeper into the woods, many began reporting a strange feeling. Some described the sensation of being watched, though no one was there, while others felt a cold, eerie presence following them. The air grew thick and oppressive, as if something unseen was haunting the forest. As the days passed, the mystery surrounding Paula's disappearance deepened with bizarre occurrences during the search. Local residents near the Long Trail reported seeing strange lights in the forest at night, soon after Paula vanished. These lights were described as glowing orbs floating among the trees, moving slowly before disappearing abruptly. Many began to believe that these lights were somehow connected to Paula's disappearance. Some paranormal researchers suggested that these might be entities not from this world, phenomena beyond human comprehension. Could Paula have accidentally stepped into another dimension where time and space no longer followed the usual rules? Beyond the lights, some witnesses reported hearing strange sounds coming from the woods on the nights after Paula went missing. These sounds resembled distant calls, but when approached, the voices would fall silent. A member of the search party even claimed to feel a chilling shiver down his spine when his name was called from the darkness. When he turned to investigate, no one was there. Paula Jean Weldon's disappearance gave rise to numerous theories, but none provided a clear answer. Some believed she may have had an accident and was unable to return. But if that were the case, why was there no evidence found, even after a thorough search by rescue teams? Another theory suggested that Paula might have been kidnapped or attacked by someone in the deep woods. Yet if that were true, why was there no sign of a struggle or any evidence left behind? The area was too isolated for such an attack to happen without leaving clues. More bizarre theories suggested that Paula may have been drawn into a supernatural event. Stories of time warps, mysterious lands where people could vanish without a trace, had long been whispered in the region. Could Paula have unknowingly crossed into one of these realms, a place from which she could never escape? There were rumors of forbidden areas in the forest, where strange spirits or otherworldly entities resided. Perhaps Paula had been caught in one of these zones, where human logic no longer applied. Though decades have passed since Paula Jean Weldon's disappearance, the case remains unsolved. The search was eventually called off, but her story continues to haunt the locals and anyone fascinated by mysterious disappearances. To this day, those who hike the Long Trail can't help but think of Paula and wonder what really happened to her that fateful day. Did Paula simply suffer an unfortunate accident, or did she stumble into a supernatural mystery beyond human understanding? These questions still linger, and the Long Trail, with its breathtaking natural beauty and hidden dangers, will forever be linked to the enigma of Paula Jean Weldon's disappearance. The strange disappearances of people in national parks and wilderness areas not only pose significant challenges for their families and friends, but also raise many questions about humanity's ability to explore and survive in nature. These disappearances, though partly explained by the harsh conditions of nature and other objective factors, often contain mysterious elements that even investigators, experts, and modern technology cannot fully resolve. One of the biggest factors contributing to disappearances and the failure of search efforts in national parks and wilderness areas is the harsh natural conditions. Complex terrain, sudden weather changes, and the ruggedness of mountainous regions and deep forests make movement, observation, and communication difficult. Areas like Mount Rainier, Sierra Nevada, or Mesa Verde are notorious for their unpredictable climates. Temperatures can shift from hot to freezing in a matter of hours, and dense fog can reduce visibility to just a few meters. In the disappearance of John Ripker and his climbing team on Mount Rainier, severe weather played a crucial role. A sudden snowstorm caused the group to lose their way and prevented them from finding their route back. However, what investigators couldn't explain was why all traces of the group vanished and why their bodies were found months later in areas that had already been thoroughly searched. Harsh weather may have caused disorientation, but it doesn't explain the unusual reappearance of their remains months later in previously explored locations. National parks often feature treacherous terrain, with deep ravines, sharp rocks, and dense forests where even modern search equipment struggles to operate. The complex landscape not only hinders movement, but also creates blind spots where people or their traces can be completely hidden. In the case of Mitchell Dale Sterling, his body was found in a remote ravine that no one thought he could reach. How could someone who wasn't fully prepared travel so far without leaving any trace? Nature is not only a formidable opponent, but can become uncontrollable in extreme conditions. Factors such as landslides, avalanches, and storms can quickly bury traces of a missing person, rendering search efforts futile from the start. Many disappearances occur under harsh conditions, explaining why some people are never found, despite rescue teams' efforts over many years. With technological advances, search and rescue methods have significantly improved over the decades. Rescue teams now use helicopters, drones, tracking dogs, and various other tools to locate missing persons. However, despite employing modern technology, many disappearances remain unsolved, sometimes with no clues found. In mysterious disappearances like those of John Ripker and his climbing group or Mitchell Dale Sterling, rescue teams deployed hundreds of people equipped with advanced technology in the first crucial days, the most critical period to locate missing individuals. They used helicopters to scan large areas, dogs to track scents, and drones to reach inaccessible areas. Yet the results were a chilling silence. Their bodies were found months, even years later, in locations that search teams had already covered multiple times. Technology, no matter how advanced, has its limits. In severe weather conditions like storms, heavy snow, or complex mountainous terrain, equipment may struggle to collect accurate data. Trails, crevices, and deep ravines can perfectly hide the traces of a missing person, meaning even the most thorough searches can overlook them. Tracking dogs, while excellent at following human scents, have occasionally failed. In some cases, reports indicate that dogs lost the scent or were distracted by unexplainable factors. This has led to speculation that unknown elements may have interfered with the search process. Some reports suggest that search dogs suddenly stopped tracking or appeared frightened while on duty, prompting suspicions that some mysterious force influenced the process. Beyond natural elements and technology, an often overlooked factor in analyzing these disappearances is the theory of supernatural or unexplained phenomena. When all scientific methods fail to provide satisfactory answers, people tend to look for explanations in occurrences that modern science cannot fully comprehend. In areas like Mount Rainier, Sierra Nevada, or Mesa Verde, stories about mysterious entities, supernatural phenomena, and legends of spirits or unknown beings have been recorded for centuries. Some believe that the missing individuals may have been drawn into an alternate reality or encountered entities that do not belong to our world. In the case of Mitchell Dale Sterling, the preservation of his body in harsh natural conditions and the strange symbols found in his backpack have led to speculation that he may have encountered a paranormal phenomenon. Supernatural researchers suspect that Sterling might have been caught in a space-time distortion, causing time in his location to behave abnormally. This could explain why his body didn't decompose as expected, and why he could have traveled to a remote location without leaving any traces. At Mount Rainier, many climbers have reported seeing strange lights and hearing eerie whispers in dense forests or on mountain peaks at night. These phenomena have led to theories about time portals, where missing individuals may have accidentally crossed into another realm and never returned. Additionally, some believe there may be human intervention, such as groups of people living off the grid or operating secretly in these wilderness areas. Could the missing individuals have encountered a mysterious group and been caught up in a conspiracy? Although there is little concrete evidence to support this theory, it is still a topic of discussion.